So hello guys and welcome to my channel. So today we're doing an Xbox original TSOP flash, and you will have to have some tools and some things which might be necessary if you don't have them to successfully flash your Xbox. So the first thing first, let's start with something more easy. You will have an hard drive. I'm using this one. It's 2.5 inch ordinary laptop hard drive, but you can use anything actually, even some some old IDE hard drives like this one. This is an IDE, so it's also possible, but they're like normally very small, like 80 gigs, 40 gigs, maybe maximum something 160 gigs, but I never saw them. So for this reason I'm using the Sata. It's a 500 gig drive. This is the first thing you will need. And to connect this hard drive to your Xbox, because Xbox uses the IDE interface, you will have to have this adapter. It's a Sata to Ide Adapter. So this side you plug your hard disk drive, and on that side you plug all the connections to your Xbox. And also, in addition to adapter, you will need an IDE cable. I know that Xbox has already one, but the difference is that this one is 40 pin 80 wire, but Xbox has 40 pin 40 wire, and in this case the Xbox IDE cable will not work because your Xbox will not boot from this kind of SATA drive. It just won't. So you will have to have this kind of IDE cable. Okay. Moving further, of course you will need some basic things like screwdriver set to unscrew your Xbox. You'll have soldering iron. I'm using a Hakko T12. You'll need as well. You will need flux. I'm using Tech. You can watch my previous video about my tools, and some soldering iron, as well as you will need this kind of card. Of course, if you don't have it in your PC. This is a COM port card, PCI Express one. I bought it from China. I will leave a link down in the description. It's around €3 or something. But if you have it in your PC, you don't need it really. Just my PC don't have it. And of course, the last but not least is this kind of guy. This is a DIY programmer, Eeprom reader and writer for your Xbox. I will leave the diagram in the description how you can build one, but basically there's nothing too fancy. As you can see, there are 2 rows of pins on this header. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and there's 6, 7, 8, 9. So what you need is two 3.9 kilo ohm resistors, 1 and 2, and then you need 5.1 volt Zener diodes. One is here and one is next to it, and some wires. Basically that's it. It's really easy to build this reader. Just one thing you have to be careful. Zener diodes are marked with a black ring around them. You have to be sure that they're facing towards the port, not otherwise, because what they do is that they limit the current flow. In this case, they allow current to flow from Xbox to your COM port, not otherwise. It cannot flow like this. So if you will mix the direction of the Zener diode. For example, you will flip it with a black ring towards here, towards your Xbox. The current will start flow this direction, and you may damage something, so be sure to solder everything correctly. But I will leave a diagram, it's really straightforward to repeat. Okay, and basically that could be it, but there's always some but. In my case, I don't have an IDE interface in my PC, so that's why I'm forced to use another old PC, and which has an IDE interface, so I will use that PC, not this one I have normally for work. So yeah, like so. And also the COM port card really works well with Windows XP, Windows 7, but not with Windows 10. The drivers just don't want to install correctly on Windows 10, so be sure to use Windows 7 or XP or something, whatever, something older. And that's about it about the tools you will need, actually. So now there's one more thing you should know before you start messing with your Xbox. You have to turn on your Xbox, and you have to check the version of the kernel. Point what you want to do is go to the settings, scroll down to system info, and wait a bit. And here you can see your kernel version, and this is your dashboard version. So remember your kernel version, you will need that. So okay guys, I have disassembled the Xbox, and I will not show the procedure of disassembling because YouTube has like millions of videos on how to disassemble your Xbox original, so just go straight to the point. And so at this point we need to solder our programmer. This is the LPC header, the one right here. I already pre-soldered some points which we're gonna use for this procedure. So anyway, I'll apply some clean flux to it. We are interested in those two points. Okay, let's put some fresh solder on there. Here, and also here, and hook up our programmer. So on our programmer, the ground wire goes to this point right here, this one. This is the ground. I'll just cut a bit off the wire because it's not looking too good. You don't need very long wires, so basically just a small tip of the wire will do. And the ground is on. Another wire called SDA. I'll also trim it a bit. So the SDA will go to this point right here. Apply a bit more solder. don't like it. I'll cut the wire a bit because I don't like how it solders. Yep, like that. Beautiful. Apply a bit of solder to the wire so it sticks better. Like so. And our SDA is right in place. I also trim a bit our last wire, which is SCL, and it goes next to the SDA right here. Soldering iron went to sleep. Okay, now we're ready to roll. Like so. So that's the only thing you have to solder for your programmer. And your programmer is right in place. Now what we're gonna do, we'll bridge some pads on the around the LPC header. You need to bridge them because otherwise you will not be able to flash the Eeprom. So they must be bridged to flash Eeprom later. So okay, let's start to solder those points. I have to bridge this solder pipe right here. It's called R7D3. Some of the guys on internet, I saw they are bridging straight with the solder joint, but I don't like that because those parts are quite old, and we may eventually broke them off. So what I like to do is take a bit of wire, like so, remove the isolation of it, and cut just one small wire of it, like so. Hope you can see it. It's really tiny. And then we apply a bit of flux right here. Take our soldering iron, put a bit of fresh solder on those two parts, like so. And then what we want to do, I dropped it, so small it's very hard to keep it in my hands. Come here. Yeah, so you try to hold that wire with your hands or with the tweezers, it's up to you, and then you bridge those two pads with your wire and try to do a soldering. Just be sure you bridge them both, like so. And then you just cut the excess wire with the pliers, like so. On other motherboard revisions, like starting from 1.2 until 1.5, there will be another solder points. Here, if I'm remembering correctly, it will be R7D10. It will be also somewhere here in this area, and there will another resistor, not resistor, sorry, another bridge point, which will be here somewhere. I just don't remember the exact number of that bridge point, but I will add a picture of it to the video so you can see it. And on the revisions starting from 1.2 until 1.5, it's really easy because all the soldering joints you have to do, they're located only on top of the motherboard. So actually you don't have to disassemble the board from your Xbox. In this case, in case of having motherboard revision 1.0 and 1.1, you have to take the motherboard out because you have to flip it, and there's another soldering point up on another side. So I'll just flip it over and we'll be back right to you. So now that we flipped the board over, there's another soldering point which you have to do, and this point is located right here. It's next to the LPC header. As you can see, this is the LPC header, and the point is here. It's R7, R4. It's located next to the resistor R7, R3, but remember to bridge the R7, R4. So what we do, we just apply again a bit of flux. Don't use too much flux, it's not needed. Clean your soldering iron tip, and then put some fresh solder on those pads, and do the same thing as we did before. Take a small piece of wire, hold it in your hands, and bridge the point. Just be careful not to bridge those points with the resistor. Actually, I don't think that something bad will happen, but try to do it clean way. I'll apply more solder. Yep. Now the bridge is in place. So again, we cut the excess wire. Just be sure when you cut those wires off, don't leave them on the motherboard, because they may eventually short something out, and then you'll search for some solution how to fix your errors, and the fix will be very painful because you will have to find that small piece of wire on all the motherboard. Okay, now there is only one thing we have left to do, and this is solder a wire. So now the only thing we're left to solder here is a bridge between two pads, and you have to solder that wire if you have a sharp TSOP flash or motherboard revision 1.0 until 1.1. So those two pads have to be bridged. Those pads are here. One of them is on the LPC header. Let's write this one. And another one is pad right here. It's R7, R4. It's next to the pad which we bridged earlier. So apply a bit of flux, apply a bit of fresh solder, pre-clean the wire, and here we go. And I'll just a bit of wire. So just a small tip of the wire. And be very careful, those parts are quite fragile, they are old. box. And now I have a perfect soldering point. What I like to do is put a bit of tape on that wire so it will not move, it will stay in place. Otherwise it may broke the pad off, then are screwed. Like so, but after we are finished with the programming and flashing procedure, it's really recommended to unsolder this wire. So now when we will move to the flashing part, be sure you don't put the screws back in your Xbox, because later you will have to remove the motherboard again to desolder this wire. So okay, and that's about it about soldering. Now the only thing we're left to do is to read the Eeprom, and then to prepare a new hard drive. So let's assemble the motherboard back into its case, connect all the power wires, and then we are good to go to start the programming procedure. I put the motherboard back into its case, connected all the wires, but only thing is I didn't do is I didn't screw the motherboard back in. So motherboard is inside. Connect your power supply to your Xbox, plug it just in a socket like so, and your programmer goes to the COM port. I plug it into my card. That's it, like so. My COM port card is right there. Now just start your Xbox. It will start on, turn off, start on, turn off. It's absolutely fine. And the third time it will spin its fans on quite loudly. That means that it's already in debug mode. Now we go to the PC and I will show you what you have to do next. Our programmer hooked up and running with our Xbox. Xbox is turned on. We need to dump an Eeprom. For that we will use a ponyprog. Just open it, click OK. I will do it a little smaller, like so. And then we need to do a basic configuration. We go to options, click setup, and here set everything like I have. Be sure this one is set to SL Prog API. And regarding the COM port, I have COM port number 3, but you may have 1, 2, or 4. For just to check it out, open Device Manager, click here in ports, and check which one you have. For example, in my case, it's 3, so it's selected here 3. That's basically it. So close Device Manager, click OK here. Then select Options again and do a calibration. Click Calibration, answer yes, and after calibration it should give you an OK status. So just click OK. At this point you're ready to read your Eeprom. For this, just select the first button called Read Device, and it will read your device Eeprom. Now what we want to do is to save it, and make sure you save it as bin. I will just give it a name like Eeprom and save it on my desktop. Put it here and do another read just in case something goes wrong. Read device. Okay, and save file. And this time I will save it as Eeprom 2. That's it. Now we have our Eeprom backup. We can close the ponyprog. And now, just to check that everything is correct, open Live Info, push the button Load Eeprom, and select the one you dumped. I will choose Eeprom, the first one. And as you can see, we can see the serial number, MAC address, and the most important thing, unquire HDD key, which we will use now to build our brand new hard disk drive from scratch. And here you also can see the version of your Xbox. In my case, it's 1.0. So that's it. So now that we have our Eeprom backup, let's go inside the Endure folder, open an Endure exe, click Next. Here we do just some basic configuration. Put a tick here. Put a tick here. Install Endure Basic. And what I like to also use is a boot Xbox dashboard, the original one. When you press eject button, so click it also. Close this menu. Here on a kernel selection, like I showed you in my in a video that I had a 4034 kernel, but you have to choose the one you have, otherwise it will just not work. So just click the one you have in your Xbox menu. So in my case it's 4034, and then just click Create Xbox HDM Installer. After that, click Next, choose a folder where Endure will prepare its files, and install. When install is completed, click Next again, and finish. So I have my Endure folder inside the exe file, so I open it and drag it aside a bit. Now what you want to do is open Xbox HDM 1.9 folder, go inside Xbox HDM, get inside Linux, and what we want to do here is, first of all, we need to copy our Eeprom bin file. It will go to folder Eeprom, copy it there, go back, and now we want to copy all the files from Endure which we just created. Copy and paste them here. Agree to overwrite all the files. That's it. Now at this point we create all the files we need to create a new hard drive for our Xbox. Now we go back to Xbox HDM folder, and here we can make a bootable ISO file. So we click this one, make ISO winbat. After it runs its things, we have Linux ISO file ready to be burned on your CD. It's up to you how you will burn the CD. In my case, I will use an Ultra ISO software, this one. So now I will put one of my CDs. I will just use a regular CD because it's like around 400 megabytes the install, so it's more than enough to use just a regular CD. And now what I will do is just click the button burn CD DVD image. And basically that's it. Now I will see you next to my PC, and when we will connect a hard drive to my PC and boot up from this CD. Okay, so now that we finished burning our CD, put it inside a DVD or a CD drive for your PC. I'm using another PC, different from mine, I'm working on because that PC doesn't have an IDE interface. So what I've done here already is I took the Sata adapter, plug it in, took an IDE cable as well as the Molex from power supply, connect everything, and the cord goes to IDE channel, the primary IDE channel on the motherboard. The primary IDE channel is always blue on those old motherboards, and the secondary IDE channel goes to the CD-ROM. So what you want to do now is boot up your PC. My monitor takes a while until it loads up. It's kind of slowish. Okay, so we boot it up from the CD. Here, take the first option. Put number 1 and hit enter. Boot VGA console. What I want to do now is write Xbox HD, like so, and hit enter. Here, choose your hard disk drive. Like, just, sorry, not choose, just write yes. And be sure it's on primary master, otherwise it will not be recognized by your PC. So write yes and hit enter. In this dialog menu, what you want to do is build a new Xbox HD from scratch. So hit 1, hit enter. Write yes. Yes again. So at this point, the Xbox HD maker is making partitions for your hard disk drive. It could take a while. So I will put a video on pause and start when it finishes. So the creation of partitions is finished, and now you want to copy all the files from CD to your hard disk drive. So at this point, just write yes and hit enter. And now it starts to build a C drive. By that I mean it's copying all the C drive files from a CD-ROM to your hard disk drive, and later on your Xbox will boot from those files. So I will put it on pause, because normally it takes a while, about 5 to 10 minutes maximum probably, but it could be faster, depends on your hard drive. So here, just wait until it finishes. Okay, so copying files to partition C is finished. It definitely took a while. Now the software asks us to build an E drive, which we say yes and hit an enter. This normally is a very fast procedure. Yep, and all is done. So now we take option number 8, quit, enter, and here we write reboot, and hit enter. After the PC is rebooted, we will boot up again, and now we will lock our hard drive, because until you flash your custom BIOS, your hard drive should be locked. Otherwise your Xbox will not boot from it. Okay, now take the third option, hit enter. And after everything is loaded up, write lock HD, defis, and A. Write this command and hit an enter. Say yes by just writing letter Y, sorry, letter Y. And now we can see that our hard disk drive, Western Digital, is security supported and security is enabled. So now what you want to do is write a command, power off, and your PC will shut down. Now just disconnect your hard drive from a PC and connect it to your Xbox. I already connected hard disk drive to Xbox via Sata to Ide Adapter. And be sure you're already using 40 pin 80 wire IDE cable, otherwise you'll be welcomed by error 16 from Xbox side, and you definitely don't want that. So change your IDE cable. Okay, and let's boot it. So as you can see, it boots just fine into the Unleash X dashboard. And now only thing we are left to do is to flash the custom BIOS into our Xbox motherboard. And by that, the TSOP flashing procedure will be over. I will just boot up the CD, Hexen Rescue, or how it's called, and after that I will change the cameras just to see you, just to show you the procedure of flashing the BIOS. Okay, as you can see, Hexen is loaded up. Push launch DVD. Actually, I will continue with this camera. It takes 1 or 2 minutes to load up, so be patient. Okay, Hexen DVD is loaded up. Now what we want to do is we want to go to TSOP flash. Sorry, wrong button. And now we have several options regarding which your Xbox has. In my case, I have TSOP flash, which is from ST, but in some cases you may be having Winbound or Sharp. So, for example, if you have Winbound or Sharp, you have to enter this menu. But in my case, that I have an ST, so we go here. Click yes. And now we're in BIOS flashing menu. So in my case, also I have 256 kilobyte BIOS. In some cases you may have 512 kilobyte BIOS, but it really depends on the TSOP flash, like of the motherboard you have. So before you flash your BIOS, just check it out. But in case of ST, normally it's always 256 kilobytes, especially, for example, especially, for example, if you read your Eeprom and it's 256, so normally it should be 256. If you're not sure, whatever, you just flash 256. So I will go with the first option. And here you have some options which you may flash. I suggest you to flash Evox. For example, if you have hard drive like 2 terabytes or 1 terabyte, you may go with F and G partitions, because this BIOS will support F and G partitions. Now, if you have something around 500 gigs, you can go with Evox F partition only. But so in my case, I have 500 gigabytes hard drive, so I will go with just an F partition. And so the flashing procedure will start after you will push Y on your gamepad. So we press Y, and the flashing procedure is starting. After the flashing procedure will be over, your Xbox will turn off, and you have to turn it back on manually, so don't be afraid of that. Yep. And now we boot up it again. And as you can see on the left corner of the screen, come on TV, we have Evox logo, which means that we successfully TSOP Xbox. And here's the menu of Evolution X. Ah, sorry, it's Unleashed X, but whatever. So at this point we finished our flashing. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next week when I will show you how to put some games in your Xbox and how to make it look wonderful. Thank you for watching, and see you on my next videos.